Hi guys and welcome. It is 2021. Happy New Year everybody, and I hope you all had a lovely Christmas. We had a lovely, quiet, restful Christmas here, so I'm grateful for that. Now I put up a picture yesterday of some cranberry and orange scones and everybody seemed to be very excited at the prospect of making them, and a lot of you have asked for the recipe. So I just thought I would go ahead and make another batch today and show you. So in here I have 500 grams of flour. Now I use my Polish flour to make my scones, which is this flour here, and it's basically like an Italian flour type 00 flour. So it's kind of extra sieved, so it's extra fine, light flour. If you can't get your hands on any of that, don't worry about it, just go ahead and use a plain flour. The other thing I have in here is 2 teaspoons of bicarbonate of soda. Actually, I don't have it, it's here. 1 teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda and 2 teaspoons of cream of tartar. Okay, and a lot of people say, is it okay if I don't use the cream of tartar? Actually, that's the magic ingredient that gives it that lovely big rise. The other ingredient I have here is butter, and I have 125 grams of butter in here. Okay, if you have rings on, now is a good time to take them off, and get your 2 hands in here, clean hands, and what we're basically doing is rubbing the butter into the flour, and this is known as the rub-in method, and you're basically going to keep doing this until it resembles breadcrumbs. Okay, if you have a mixer or a food processor, you can totally do this job excuse me, in your food processor. That was the flour that was just in the air there, just in case you think it is something else. So that is this just takes a couple of minutes to do. I'm just going to go ahead and stop the camera and let you guys go ahead and take your time to do that, and I'll be right. So here we go, guys. I hope you can see in there. It just looks like very fine breadcrumbs. All the butter has been incorporated into the flour. So the next thing I'm going to add here is my sugar. And the good thing about this recipe is it uses very little sugar. I think there's only 25 grams of sugar in here. So it's a very light scone recipe. So if you have any people that are, you know, diabetic, this is a very nice light, and in fact you could just even use less sugar altogether, or just use Cranberry or something like that. So that's it, and then I make a little tiny well in the center, and now we're going to add our fruit, and this is the part that's a little bit different to my normal scone recipe. I have just about maybe a third of a cup of mixed peel, which gives it that lovely orangey, lemony bite. And I have about a cupful of fresh cranberries in here. If you want to, you could chop them in half if you don't want a full bite of a cranberry. And I have the juice and the zest of 1 orange in here, which I already did just to save a little bit of time. And I squeezed the orange as well. So I'm just going to pour that in here, the whole orange, and I'm going to pop 1 egg in here as well. And then the other thing I'm going to add is my buttermilk. Now the original recipe asks for 275 mils of buttermilk, but because I've added the orange juice in here, we're not going to need as much. So I'm just going to pour in half and see how we get on. And we basically just stir everything all up together. A lot of people are afraid of making scones. They think that it's a difficult thing to do, but basically that's it. You just need to incorporate everything together. I think the trick to making a nice scone, sorry, that's my dishwasher making the noise over there. It never stops when everybody's home at Christmas. But the trick to making a nice light scone is the kneading part. And you don't want to over knead it. I think that's That's when people get into bother with their scones not rising and they're dense, is because they're overworked. And the same principle goes with pastry as well. If you overwork your pastry, it's kind of dense and not light. So that is basically what we're looking for there. It's still a little bit sticky. It's not sticking to the side of the bowl, and yet all the flour is incorporated, okay? And I haven't used quite all of my buttermilk, so hold a little bit back, like I said. So the next step is just to shape it. I'm going to flour my surface really well because it's still a little bit sticky, and just pop my mixture on here like that. Oops, that's the noise. My dishwasher's done. Thank God for dishwashers, especially when there's so much. I honestly think that goes on 3 times a day when everyone's home. Okay, so that's that. And I'm going to also liberally dust the top of it. And I'm going to use the tips of my hands, which I'm also going to dip into flour, or actually the bottoms of the heels. I don't know, what do you call these? I always get that mixed up. Palms of my hands. And I'm going to push in and pull back lightly with my fingertips until I get it into a nice round dough that comes together. But I'm not pushing in and I'm not taking any of the air out of it, if that makes sense. And that's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to pull it together anymore. I just want to make sure that there's plenty of flour underneath here, so when it comes to the cutting stage, it's not going to stick to the surface. So I'm just gently using both hands to flatten down my pastry like that, or my dough. And I'm using a baking tray here and one of these little plastic fellas. If you don't have a plastic fella, just butter your baking tray or use some greaseproof paper, whatever you like. And I'm using a simple cutter shape just to cut out my scones. And whenever you get to the point where you've all your scones cut out and you still have a little bit of pastry left, just repeat the whole process. Bring it all together again, roll it out, flatten it, and cut again until you've all your dough used up. And we should get, I think I get about 15 scones out of this recipe, depending on the size of the cutter that you're using, okay? So I'll just keep moving along here. And the beautiful thing about scones is they're the nicest when they're fresh. You use them up on the day that you make them. If you don't use them all up, pop them in a Ziploc bag and into the freezer straight away. Don't wait until the next day, because then they're fresh. And whenever you have people coming over, you can pull them out, pop them in the microwave, and they taste as if they just came out of the oven. If you leave them lying around for a day or so, they're just old and they're not the same. Okay, so we might get one more out of this batch here. And just roll up your last bit kind of into a ball like that. That'll be the end scone, or the kind of ugly scone, but it will be eaten. The last thing I'm going to do before I pop it into the oven is give it a little light brush with, I just have ordinary milk here. You can use buttermilk or you can use egg, whatever you want. I just find milk is handier, it's cheaper too than an egg to get that. And this gives it a lovely golden colour when it's cooking in the oven. So put your oven as high up as it will go and pop these fellas in, because that's what gives it the great rise, is the hot temperature. And leave them in there for about 10 minutes. I try to put them up as high up in the oven as I can as well, for 10 minutes, then check them, turn them around. They may need another 10 minutes or so, and I'll be back. Here we go, guys. Our scones are ready. Now I do notice about these scones that they don't rise as much as my normal scones do, and I think that's because of the orange juice, but that's okay. They're actually equally delicious. So I hope you guys get a chance to try one of these little scones. The smell is incredible, and as you can see, they're super easy to make, so give it a go. Why not? Thanks for watching. God bless. See you soon.